Are you ready for a snack break? Afternoon Snack is the cure-all to your dreaded afternoon slump. Join me, LK, an avid snacker and armchair history and culture buff, uniquely qualified to provide you with that brief distraction you didn't know you needed. Honestly, is snacking even good for you anymore? I'm not sure, but you're not in the market for more than a little treat anyway. Boss just slacked you 8 times? No worries. This will only take a few. So stop slacking and let's get snacking. Hello and welcome, my fellow snackers. Thanks so much for joining me on the snack today. You are here for a meaty little snack where we dig into how 20 years ago today, Arnold Schwarzenegger became the Governator of California. Yeah, I wanted to focus on Arnold today because of his anniversary of being elected governor of California, because there's a lot to say about Arnold, and he did become one of our most beloved celebrities and actors of all time, having come from almost nothing. This is a guy who was born in 1947 in Austria. That's just 2 years after the end of World War II. When he was a kid, he was dubbed the Austrian Oak for all of his bodybuilding titles in Europe. And then, he came over to the States to launch his career. This is a career that culminated in both being the star of movies that were so iconic to all of us and to American action movie and film culture overall, but also becoming the governor of one of the largest states in terms of population in our country. I think that's hands down true. And obviously, that's no small feat. This is someone who didn't have English as a first language, had a heavy accent. How did this guy become the Schwarzenegger that we know and love? I've got to say, looking into Mr. Schwarzenegger's background really inspired me quite a bit and also took me down a trip down memory lane, experiencing through reading his IMDb page some of my most favorite movies that are less famous that I absolutely love that star Arnold, including Kindergarten Cop. But I also discovered a few interesting tidbits that I'd like to share with you about Arnold that you may not know already. And these were news, items to me as well. One of the segments that I wanted to highlight is roles that Arnold actually turned down. And this is pretty incredible because you never really hear about roles that an actor has turned down. But let's just say that his list of movies that he decided not to participate in is really exceptional. So let's take, for example, the fact that he was cast in the movie Full Metal Jacket, but turned down a lead role in that iconic war film for his roles in Predator and Commando. And who could be ungrateful for Predator, right? Like, please. Just to die for, and still holds up, which is always a barometer for me. He also happened to pass on the movie Die Hard, which I was exceptionally surprised by. He was booked on another film. He turned down that role so he could do. He turned down that role in Die Hard so he could do this other film that he was interested in, and of course, we know the iconic role of John McClane was then taken by Bruce Willis, who turned it into his very own and who made us love him even more through those roles. I've got to say that the thing that may have surprised me the most is that Arnold, that is, replaced Patrick Swayze in the iconic, legendary, delicious film Total Recall, which I thought was quite interesting. We're talking about two very different types of actors here. One being a triple threat, a dancer, singer, actor, performer in Swayze, and an action star, meathead, muscle man in Schwarzenegger. So I'm actually intrigued that, he was cast. Swayze was initially cast in Total Recall, but I think the other piece that was a little bit surprising to me is that Arnold's popularity, his big, strong size, and his whole profile was sometimes not an asset to him. So he was supposed to be in the original RoboCop, another iconic film, but he actually was deemed to be too large looking in the suit and that it would be distracting. So he was not selected for that role. And, that's just one of the movies that you never really think about who were the other hotshots who got considered for those lead roles that ended up not being chosen. Another another role that came up for me in this same realm was that they considered Arnold for the role of Fezzik, played by Andre the Giant, memorably in the movie The Princess Bride. So I think that is another one where you could totally picture Arnold in the role, but because of the timelines and the requirements of the casting, he didn't end up in it, which I think is so interesting. Now, let's just put it this way. To go from what Arnold came from to becoming literally the governor of California and all, is epic. And though his time in office in California was troubled, he was able to accomplish some really incredible things during that time, actually, things that still hold up and make people happy about his time in office, although his approval rating was quite was quite troubled throughout. And one was an emissions policy that continues to hold up and is celebrated in California today. Shout out in the comments if you know anything about this. I'm intrigued by the emissions work that he did. This is obviously an environmentalist. And I think the other thing is, Arnold really broke down boundaries for what it means to become an actor. He turned himself into his characters, even though he was likely perceived often and early on as, just a meathead. And then he also overcame his language barriers, his accent, all of those difficulties to become the governor of California. And that's another reason why I think we will all always listen to what Arnold says when he says, "Get in the chopper." My personal favorite Arnold movie is Kindergarten Cop because I grew up with it. My brother and I used to watch it on loop. Arnold is an incredibly funny actor, and I love movies where he's able to show that off. So let's celebrate 20 years since Arnold was inaugurated governor of California and enjoy a little bit of time today looking back on a career that took a lot of different winding turns and paths, but culminated in the ultimate success for an immigrant kid coming over to the United States. And geez, what more can you say about Arnold? Listen, this has been The Snack. I am so glad you joined me. This podcast is in beta, and I would love your feedback. If you liked what you heard today, are you interested in previous topics? What would you like to hear more about? Please come back and join me, and I'd love to see you here soon.